Okay, so while we still have some people coming in, I just want to first thank you all for joining us today. I'm very excited to kick off the next webinar with Sircle Media. Platform for the Now is a quarterly series that we are hosting here at Naturally New York, and that's really to keep you guys updated on the most relevant information as it pertains to social media, because it's a constantly evolving landscape, as I'm sure you know, and it's really hard to constantly stay on trend and be in the know. So that is why we're here, and I appreciate Adam Brown and Sarah Hayden for helping us to educate you all. And I'm going to kick it over to Adam now, who is also a Naturally New York board co-chair and founding partner of Naturally New York. So thank you for all your support. And if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. We are going to save time at the end of the call to address them. If you don't feel comfortable dropping them in the chat, you are welcome to DM me directly or Lily, and we will address them later in the call. All right, so without further ado, Adam, please take it away.
Thanks, Adrian. I think I see Heather Scott on here. I appreciate you being on here, Heather. If it's that Heather, I can't see anyone's faces. Anyway, thanks for having us, guys. We love doing this series. I know we had like 110. Oh, there she is. I see that is the Heather Scott, the legend. Thanks for joining. And we had over 100 people. I think so far we have like 30 something. Sometimes if it's more intimate, that's better. So definitely have questions that you put in the chat. We're going to get to the questions at the end. But if you have a burning question, ask it. So we'll definitely get to it and be able to give you direct value. So first order of business, I want to talk about retail footprint support. This actually came up from Adrian. She was talking to some people in the space that are partners at Naturally New York, and they were asking about retail footprint. And they were talking about followers. So Heather and anyone else that's ever spoken to me before knows my position that followers do not represent social footprint. But I want to talk a little bit about that for the value for this audience. So a lot of times we hear from retail buyers or investors that they think followers are a proxy for social footprint or a brand's ability to get in front of people. So it's really apropos for this conversation. If you are a New York-based brand and you're an early stage sub $5 million brand and you're doing the thing and you're growing your brand, and you get scale and you suddenly land Erewhon or Publix, like a big regional win. It is highly likely if you have 500 followers, 5,000 followers, 50,000 followers in your backyard, you probably don't have many in those areas. So first and foremost, a follower count that's large might be irrelevant if you punch out into new regions, if you just think about it logically. Secondarily, you don't reach your followers, right? Organic reach is low. I've been fighting that fight for years, but most people I speak to now are like, yeah, there's zero organic reach, right? And so if organic reach is low, followers don't matter, since regardless of your number, you don't reach them. And then lastly, all social networks have changed their algorithm to keep up with TikTok. They call the TikTokification of social. So it's no longer a social graph. That's why you might see less like friends from college and their kids in your feed. It's more interest and intent graph. So like I just moved, I'm in my new apartment. I've been looking at furniture. So what do I see on all the social networks? A lot of furniture. Because my interest is furniture, so I'm seeing a lot of that. So the idea is that it's showing me more of what I want to see, and that I might not want to see pictures of my friends and their kids that I haven't seen in 25 years. So just keep that in mind as you think about followers. Now, specifically for this, rather than using a vanity metric such as followers to prove to a retailer or an investor that you're dedicated to driving in-store velocity, show them all the different ways you will support. So here's some examples. Retail velocity platforms. I'm going to talk a little bit about Aisle after this on the next slide, but I feel like last time we did this, all anyone wanted to talk about was Aisle, like I was like advertising for them. They're just one of many platforms that have a tool that allow you to push in-store velocity and then tie it back. So if you're answering to a board, if you're answering to investors and they want to prove out that it's working, things like Aisle and WeStock and Social Nature has their own version, and Visor, there's a lot of tools to do that. Aisle is one that we work with quite a bit and we've had a lot of success with. Sampling, so opportunities through platforms like Social Nature, in-store demos, etc. I strongly encourage brands to continue like quarterly or even once every 6 months to get an updated fact sheet or demo from a platform. So if you looked at Social Nature 2 years ago and you're like, yeah, it's not for me or just not a fit, you should get an updated point of view. A, they may have changed their products, which they probably did. And B, they might have added tools like an aisle competitor or a data analysis suite or just other things. So they have a great founder, they have a great company, and they're constantly iterating on their products. So I think it just really behooves you to make sure you have updated demos and understanding of how to use these tools, especially around getting product into people's hands, like sampling. In fact, I did a demo the other day of a group that will put you in front of very niche, very small activities like a run club in Miami. Why is that interesting? It's very inexpensive. If you have a non-refrigerated, easy to ship product that you could just send to the head of the run club that has 75 people that get together every Wednesday and run in Miami, that's a really good dual play if you got into Publix. Like I would get it to there and then I would show Publix. We're supporting if I use like run clubs and meetups and dating apps or whatever it is of people in and around Miami to let them know that we're available and we're going to have a script about come get us at Publix. That's how we underwrite the relationship. Content that supports the retailer. It could be highly stylized content like who we are, why it matters, where you can buy it, beautiful studio type stuff, or user generated. The truth is it shouldn't be one or the other. So binary, it should be a little bit of both. So I think that's really important. Showing that, back that content insight, showing people are saving and sharing, as Adam Mosseri has recently stated, how engagement is even more important than follower count. Thanks for adding that in, Sarah. Yeah, Adam Mosseri, who runs Instagram, has been talking a lot about how they're looking at saves and shares as a proxy. Now you can actually see share count on your Instagram posts. So it used to have likes and comments. You have that share button. Now it tells you this has been shared 37 times, 172 times. That's a real indication of a cosign. If I send your recipe, your product to a friend, I'm sharing it for some reason. I either saw value or humor or utility in the content, or I just thought they might like the product. And so I'm sharing it with them. So trying to focus on that is a really good proxy for retail support. Influencer partnerships that are highly geo-targeted, showing people where to find the product literally on shelf. Sometimes you actually need to do the heavy lifting. Like they might not know where your marinade is. Is it next to dressings? Is it next to condiments? And if you're a brand that has multiple product lines, sometimes you have to show them like, yeah, we are typically in the freezer section, but we also have some shelf stable products. And so you don't want them to just go to the freezer section, not see your product and move on. You have to really, sometimes just do the work for them to really spell it out. Emails that support the retailer. I can't tell you how many brands that we come across that are brick and mortar focused, retail first, that are like punting D2C. And so they equate email to D2C and they either have no email or they have terrible email. And they spend all their time on branding and packaging and social content, but then their email are inconsistent. It should be a consistent experience throughout. And email is a great way for an owned audience to let people know that you're in a new market. And theoretically, if you've been harvesting your email list, then if you have Adam Brown who lives in New York as a consumer, and I have family in California, you might have a pay it forward. Hey, fans of our brand, we just landed Erewhon. If you know anyone in California, spread the word and maybe they'll do some of that heavy lifting for you. And then just don't be scared of paid social. I think a lot of people are like, the iOS change or, meta ads or TikTok's, stealing our information. If you're a brand trying to use social networks, you should feel very comfortable using the Meta and TikTok suite. They're very powerful and very cost effective right now. And it's not always the case, but we're seeing some really very, very nice pricing with very powerful tools to get your message in front of the right eyeballs. Great way to support retail. And I'll quickly go on Aisle. Just what I really like about Aisle right now, these are two different brands, two different stages, two different categories, and two different types of assets. We have one that's more of a stylized, like a UGC that's in front of the store, find us at Whole Foods. And then we have a more stylized asset that we made here at Sircle. Both of these campaigns are crushing on Aisle for us, or did in September. And so Aisle sort of ebbs and flows also along a little bit with the cost of ads. When the cost of ads are good and your price point, I think, is under $9.99, being able to give a free product to get first-time trial at retail at a full price turn, not a coupon, is a really good way to get those turns, get trial, get repeat business, and get information that you can market to on an ongoing basis. So I highly encourage you guys, if you've been flirting with Aisle or did a demo, but you're not sure, you should really consider using one of these tools if you want to help new retail footprint or even existing retail footprint where you have new facings or you're risking potentially getting delisted. Leveraging one of these tools to get turns is a really good idea.
Cool. Thanks, Adam. So I'm going to jump into influencer partnerships. I'm sure a lot of brands on here listening right now and tuning in are at the smaller stages. So whether you're a bigger brand or a smaller brand, a recommendation that we're really speaking to at our agency is the reason behind investing in smaller partners. So think the 20K and under, which seems to be the newest leading category for successful partnerships, according to Aspire's State of Influencer Marketing 2024. So smaller influencers are both highly engaging and cost effective, offering brands an excellent return on investment. So you can look to smaller creators and smaller influencers in particular to leverage their highly engaged audiences for the brand's benefit at a low cost per engagement. You'll also notice that although they have smaller reach, they excel in impact due to their authenticity and relatability, just given their smaller audience. And a smaller following also enables more direct two-way communication between nano influencers and that loyal audience. So they often know their followers personally, enhancing engagement and providing ongoing opportunities to reinforce brand and product awareness. So tons of reasons why we are recommending these smaller partnerships heading into the end of the year. And again, going off of the fact that they will have a smaller reach, we do recommend whitelisting as part of our influencer recommendation to ensure that your content reaches your target audience. So this is essentially the reason behind why we are big proponents of paid social. You can take that small audience, smaller reach, and really just expand that reach with a few dollars. So some examples of some successful nano influencer partnerships you can see below, one from Board Cow, one Harvest Snaps, and one with C2O. So these are all just smaller partners, lower costs, and a lot of benefits, just given the whitelisting aspect.
Now I'm talking a little bit about content planning. So I'm going to talk to this, and then I'm going to riff a little bit for you on how I would think about going about it if I was an early stage brand. So we really like the idea of like a bigger batch photo shoot or video shoot where you're getting a bigger, either like romancing the product. Here is an example of like a romancing the bottle for a client Fitvine, or just like product benefit, or what's in or not in your ingredients, like a bigger storytelling video that then can be sliced down into vignettes that you can use on social. So you're not putting all your eggs in one basket on one asset. You're just ringing the towel and getting more value, is a really good idea. So if you think about like, what are we trying to say? Like, we have this Prosecco, it is lower in sugar, it is better for the somebody who likes to drink and partake, but also wants less sugar and wants this option. And then you're having options to take all of these as individual assets that you could just add type to, that could be used for ads, used for organic, used in a trade show booth, wherever it might be. And then, I think an important question is like, how do I make that happen? Yeah, of course, I'd love to do a cool video, but like, I don't want to break the bank and I don't want to guess wrong. So there's so many different creators out there. In fact, a lot of times when I'll meet a brand that's like under $1 million in revenue, they're usually like, oh yeah, we have somebody here in Westchester or Cleveland or Atlanta that we use, and what do you think? And I see some of the content is great. So I'm like, great, you should use that, but you should really know how to like ring the towel to glean more value out of that relationship. So it's asking like, how do you work? Like, do you go by a day rate, which is what a lot of creators do? And they're like, yeah, I charge X for a day rate. So it's like, all right, in a day rate, and you can produce one video for me that like looks like this. Can I also just get like all of the raw footage? A lot of times they'll say no. Or if you do a photography shoot, a lot of times they'll say, I'm going to give you 10 selects, like 10 photos of what I shot, and that's what you'll get, and I'll edit. Sometimes I like to ask for, can I get the unedited too? Some small creators would be like, yeah, I'm literally going to throw them away. If not, sure. And then you can use those later. Some of them don't have to be perfect. They can be grainy. Some of those can be uploaded into Canva, where your social media manager could make an asset out of it, even if it's not a beautiful final finished asset. Or if you have access to some photo editors, which can be found on Fiverr or Upwork or whatever, you might not need to pay full premium for that creator to edit those photos, but you might be able to get somebody very inexpensive to edit those photos. And now instead of 10, maybe you got 30, which makes the cost less prohibitive if you spread it out per asset. I also think you can just ask, like as a business partner, like, where do you need to make money and where do you have flex? Some of them that are more established are going to be like, you get 10 selects and you get limited rights usage, and that's it. And that's harder to negotiate with. But a local content creator in today's market, it's a little bit rough out there, just like it's rough in CPG. And I can tell you, I get at least one job candidate that's a photographer or a videographer freelancer that's looking to come work at Sircle. So what does that mean for you guys? It's dried up a little bit, which means it's a little bit of a buyer's market. So just know that going in, you don't have to take their price on full face value. I would definitely find ways to negotiate so that you can get a better value exchange for the content that you need. Also, things are generally more expensive in New York. So CPG is a very small, nice, incestuous, friendly community. So if a premium is being paid in New York, reach out to another founder that works maybe in Cleveland or in Indiana or a state where things are just less expensive. You might be able to get a comparable asset kit from a local creator in a less expensive to live market that can get you equal quality for less price point. So I think you should be looking for that, where it's like not just you asked one person, they were too expensive, you moved on. I think you need to create these long form assets with these cut downs so that you have more value in your content kit, and you can really lean on these to tell your story, and don't just be dissuaded because the first person you reach out to seemed a little bit expensive.
And then lastly, obviously we're heading into a big holiday season. So I'm going to talk through some ways that you can maximize your strategy. And obviously you don't have to do all of these. You also don't have to break the bank to just support holiday season, but these are just some nice strategies across platforms that you can keep top of mind. So first off, content, vertical style video, leveraging seasonal content, particularly vertical style videos, is definitely a strategic way to boost engagement and reach. Again, as we enter fall and holiday season, sharing seasonal recipes across platforms will enhance brands' visibility as they gain widespread attention across the next few months. So these are just a few visual examples. If you have a product that works nicely or can be paired with something around the holidays, definitely take advantage. Tap into SEO, keywords, hashtags, all the things that will gain attention around this time of year. Another content format that we like around the holidays are engaging carousels. Carousels can extend your content's reach, making it visible to a broader audience. So the holiday season is definitely an ideal time to utilize this asset type, whether it be for recipes, gift guides, promotions, or other special offers that align with the season. So these are just some carousels for inspiration. The first one being how to host the ultimate Friendsgiving, and the other one just being a few recipes. On the email side, social is a great way to direct your fans to these fun and exclusive initiatives ahead of the holiday season. So it's definitely a strategic move to limit some of these initiatives to email. You'll entice people to want to subscribe. It's a way to grow your email list and directly reach out to fans during these key sales periods. So some examples that you can really tap into around the holidays, and there are some visuals to the right, would be an email only promo code or a higher discount via email than what's shared on social. Again, if they know they're going to get that better incentive over on email, you're going to get that subscriber. Exclusive holiday giveaways only for subscribers, and then holiday recipes that are not shared anywhere else. So it's a great time to kind of have that exclusivity. There are also various ways to strategically build that email list through the help of social. So if you're working with an influencer on the holidays, whether it be for October's Prime Day, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or any other event, have them encourage their followers to subscribe to your email list for early access. It's just like another add-on benefit to working with those influencers this time of year. You can do it through in-feed content. So promote your newsletter and give subscribers a preview of what they can expect. You can tailor it to hint at the upcoming Black Friday or holiday sale to provide subscribers with an exclusive chance to shop early. And then, of course, tapping into Instagram stories, which are a platform in and of themselves. Feature a direct link to your sign-up form and save this to your highlights for easy access, as consumers might see your stories, might miss your feed, so definitely hit them in all areas. And then it's a great time, again, to tap into unique influencer partnerships. Partnering with them for the holidays I mentioned earlier can boost your visibility and reach your target audience during key sale periods, and help you just stand out in a crowded market. So if they're creating a gift guide, which influencers tend to do this time of year, offer to be featured in exchange for products or as part of an existing campaign. I think that's a really scrappy way for early stage brands to just generate awareness and stand out this time of year. They're a great way to gain exposure and may include certain influencers' Amazon storefronts for gifting ideas. So obviously Amazon storefront, check my Amazon for the holidays, for shop for him, shop for her, shop for the holidays. I think people tap into Amazon a lot during the holiday season. So again, it's another great gifting opportunity. And then you can also consider diverse influencer partners if it makes sense for your brand or your brand's story or ethos to support all different types of holidays. So we have a Hanukkah example, 12 days of Cocoa Mel's, and then community fridges for Board Cow. And I can wrap it up, Adam, unless you want to. I
Go
got
for
it.
it.
So just in summary, and we're happy to answer any questions after this. Number one, being consider various ways to support retail through social that are more meaningful than follower count. Number two, test and learn with smaller, more micro nano influencer partners. Number three, batch video content to supplement your content library. And finally, maximize your strategy this holiday season.
Yes, Melissa, first question. Thank you. I was getting sad that no one had any questions for us. Some tips to recruit smaller creators, influencers inexpensively. Yeah, that's the beauty of, to me, of Instagram, like hand-to-hand combat. Go in the feed, maybe look at some other brands that are in your space, look at influencers or creators that are engaging with that partner, and then just quickly look at their Instagram, and you can see if they're like the right ilk. So for example, if I was a granola brand, I might go look at Purely Elizabeth. I go look at Purely Elizabeth, and there might be some partners that are working with Purely Elizabeth that are paying a fortune. But there's also like smaller, 1,500 follower creators that are like, oh, I love your granola, whatever it might be. So you could reach out to them and be like, if you love Purely Elizabeth, you might also love this, right? Because if you have a brand, everyone thinks their baby's the cutest in CPG. You think your brand is better than Purely Elizabeth. Why? Or somebody who eats Purely Elizabeth might also like our product because of X, whatever it is. Just tell them. And I think people told me like, oh, I don't have the time to do it. Like, look, do 20, 25 a week. So that's right. Let's call it 100 a month. If you do 100 a month and you can get it down to the same script that you just copy and paste, like you could probably do each week in under a half hour. It's probably not even a minute for each one. So if you just go through and get the names, drop them in. If you do 100, you'll get a good amount that respond and are interested. Let's call it 20%. If you could do that and get 20 creators that are like, hell yeah, I'd like to try your product and see for myself. That's easy, low-hanging fruit that you can do without a lot of money to get in front of people. I also think that when you're doing that, make sure you're looking for creators that just seem authentic. Authentic means if I post and then people respond and I never respond to them, and I'm just like looking like I'm just posing with a lot of brands and I'm not engaged, those are going to be expensive and not have value. But if you see somebody who literally responds to everyone and answers every question and is highly engaged, that's going to be somebody who's really good to work with. And you don't need them to have a lot of followers. Remember, they don't reach all their followers, but if they have a highly engaged niche audience, they're going to be a little bit less expensive and you're just going to get more bang for your buck. What was the name of the service that connected you to a run club? Do you remember, Sarah? I was trying to think of it.
Rue?
Rue. Yeah, well, we can try to grab it. I literally heard about it last week. I'll talk about it. So actually random. An intern, a friend's daughter who's a senior at Virginia is interning for Rue. I'd never heard of them. She's like, you want to do a demo? I did a demo. And they do these clubs. And I'm like, oh, I'm not sold. I know a lot of people. It's like logistically, it's a pain. But they were working with True, which is a beverage brand out of Boston. And they were working with Daily Crunch, who you guys probably have heard of. She just raised a bunch of money and is in the snack category. And I reached out to both of them, like, what do you guys think of Rue? And they both raved. They're like, we love Rue. It's a great way to get product in front of a target niche. So I thought that was great, getting 2 positive endorsements from like some really early stage brands. So I'd imagine it's not that expensive. So that's definitely something to look at. And if you want to follow up, I'm happy to introduce you to the founder. How do you think about Reels versus TikTok for reach and engagement?
I can take that one. I'd say vertical video is definitely king across both platforms. So we recommend posting Reels, which is vertical style video, sized the same way that it would be on TikTok, across both platforms. Both have definitely become more of a pay to play platform. So you're less likely nowadays on TikTok to see that like virality on the platform. So if we had a reel, let's say a recipe that we were posting to Reels, we would recommend posting it to TikTok, but boosting it on Meta and boosting it a little bit, or running it as a Spark ad is what TikTok calls it. So yeah, we're big proponents of vertical style video for that reason, especially that you're able to cross promote across platforms. And we would even lump TikTok or YouTube Shorts into that list as well.
Love that. Somebody asked about Pinterest versus TikTok, so I'll take this one. I do think, especially like assuming some of the brands here are earlier stage, you want to be mindful that like less is more. So we would recommend like go deep on like 3 platforms rather than wide on everything. So I think an argument for Pinterest is if you have a viable D2C business, like it's very easy to like click on image or recipe or whatever, go on and buy. So if I was a frozen brand, a refrigerated brand, a beverage, I wouldn't spend that much time on Pinterest because there's going to be friction, like there's going to be a step before a transaction. But if I was an easy to ship, D2C focused, less expensive like brand, I think Pinterest becomes attractive. TikTok is just wonderful. It's like you know, a highly active platform. The paid platform is amazing. It's entirely self-serve. It's very inexpensive, so you can really target your messaging quite a bit. And it's where people search. Most brands we work with are looking for, you know, Sarah, the 23-year-old, highly active, socioeconomic person that can afford my Better For You product, and that's Sarah. Sarah, I didn't realize I used your name, but that Melissa, target demo person is searching on TikTok. You know, instead of going to Google, you're going on there where you might get a recipe or you might get a recommendation. And so I think TikTok just represents a very current, very viable universe. But I'm a buyer. I was telling our team, I shared something from Pinterest yesterday. Like, I'm a buyer of Pinterest. It's this like wonderful niche active buying community where people do search. So wonderful. I mentioned like I'm buying an apartment. So great place on Pinterest to see inspiration, click, and then maybe buy something from somebody who's curated board, I think, you know, is like the style that I have. It's a little bit less of a play for CPG and beverage brands. So it's got to be right for your niche. Amazon's influence program effective? How does it differ from using Instagram? Sorry, you want me to take that or you got that?
You could take that one.
Yeah, so we focus at Sircle quite a bit on retail velocity support, so like brick and mortar stores above all else. So all of our clients are omni-channel, but our focus is usually in supporting the stores, and maybe they'll have an Amazon agency. But I think like Amazon's influence program, or if you have a D2C business, like using affiliates is powerful, right? You're getting a certain type of influencer who's inclined to yield influence that generates sales. It's just a different ilk than other types of influencers who also can be amazing and effective, but they're not necessarily being like, buy here because you'll click and they'll get a kickback from Amazon for you buying. So I think, again, if you have an Amazon business, if you have a D2C business, I like Amazon, it's very effective. We just generally swim more on Instagram and TikTok looking for real sort of like spokespersons that can speak about using product in their lives. And then if we had an ask, we don't always have a CTA at the end, but if we did, it would be, look what I found at Publix. You should get it too, before we would send somebody to Amazon or D2C. Hopefully that makes sense.
Advice about TikTok Shop. So our thoughts are definitely get on there if you can. It's definitely a savvy new shoppable experience on TikTok, and TikTok is definitely pushing it. I'm sure as you scroll on the platform, you're seeing shop ad after shop ad. I'd say the hurdle there is just getting onboarded to TikTok Shop. So as an agency, we've kind of been connecting with agencies that really specialize in getting your brand onto TikTok Shop itself. It would also require kind of like additional budget to work with creators to promote your TikTok Shop, additional budget, but we're definitely big proponents of it and think it's kind of like the newest shoppable option across TikTok.
Yeah, just to riff on that, because it's a big subject. You know, again, just speaking from Circle's point of view, we focus on CPG or really food and beverage brands sold in brick and mortar stores. So usually once it sounds like performance, well, like that's not us. You got to go to a performance agency or a D2C specialist, or that's a growth marketer question. But because it has TikTok in front of it, and that's a social network, everyone just constantly comes to us like, why don't you run it? What do you recommend? How do we go through you? So I went with members of our team, Molly, who you probably have seen me post a lot of content with, to TikTok during the summer, met with TikTok Shop. And, you know, even to get non-self-serve help at TikTok Shop, you have to spend $15,000 a month. So a lot of early stage brands are like, yeah, we're just like not spending that kind of money, and that's just not what we do. We've also done a lot of Q&A, or just a lot of deep dives with other partners that we trust in the D2C space. And a lot of them are absolutely crushing it for brands. Again, easy to ship, low cost, like the kinds of things that you would think would just be like an easy like type of impulse buy. Again, apparel, beauty, these are not categories we focus in much, but like those are very common. With food and beverage, there's definitely a lot of brands that are killing it. I think it's, you have to have a certain amount of money to sit at the blackjack table. Like it's not the $5 table, if you get what I mean. And you have to have a little bit of growth marketing, D2C expertise. And the agencies that are out there are charging like expensive retainers, but what we're finding is there's a reason, there's a market for it. Like you're spending $3,000-$5,000 a month in management fees, and then they're getting you 300 creators and they're managing the process. So I'm like, oh, okay, so that's the ecosystem. And it seems like if you do that and you have the right partner, it crushes. So I love that for a brand, and we would recommend that to some of our brands that are high revenue and can afford it. We just don't really manage it much. But if anyone on here is asking questions about it, it's like, you know what, I'm interested and I can sit at that blackjack table, reach out to us and we can introduce you to some of our preferred partners. I think that was the last question. I know, Lisa, you asked, are we going to share this? And Lily answered, but yes. Also happy to answer any questions. If you just want to like follow up question that you didn't ask here, or some people don't like asking questions in a public setting, we can answer that too. Any other questions while you have us? We were supposed to have 100. It looks like we had 53. We now have 42. We must have been terrible that we lost 11 people.
Nonsense.
But yeah, I mean, what's going on here? You guys have, I just fresh off a Peloton workout. It's like, you know, check, you showed up, you're here, like take advantage of it. Like any last questions while you have us?
I do.
Go.
We do have a couple questions on our end. So first, how do you source influencers at Sircle Media?
So we have a platform that we use called Julius for searching opportunities, but we also just manually are going in constantly because we work across all CPG food and beverage brands. So we know a lot of the influencers in the space. We're always manually looking for more using our search tool to support that. But a lot of it is actually manual because we're also engaging with our brand's comments and going in morning, midday, evening to engage. So we're finding them and then we're finding their followers and people engaging with them. So I'd say it's a mix of manual work and then tapping into our platform, Julius.
Yeah, and I would just quickly add on to that. Again, going on and like you could even ask, like I think people don't ask other CPG founders enough. Like everyone's trying to help each other out. Like just reach out. Hey, brand, we're always like friends with each other on LinkedIn. Have you had any influencers that have just like punched above their weight that are awesome that you would refer? Like sure. It's actually, if you think about it, if I am Thermoflask and I worked with an influencer named Jennifer and I'm working with her, if I can bring Jennifer more business, selfishly, I'd like to help, but selfishly, it probably gives me better buying power because I brought her more business. So I think you should ask some brand founders that are homies that get together every once in a while, like maybe you guys pool together and you go to the influencer and say, what's your rate? And they say the rate is $400. You'd be like, well, what if we brought you 5 brands? Could we get a group buying power? And over the next few months, you sort of work with all of us? I think the answer is going to probably be yes. So don't be shy about pooling together resources to maybe drive down price. I think someone asked about price. Go ahead, Sam.
I was just going to say for searching on TikTok, I think that's even easier to search just given their SEO. And if you were to search like Walmart haul or Whole Foods finds, you'd find tons of creators posting their Whole Foods and Walmart hauls. So, and then your For You page will probably start to get curated with a lot of other retailer hauls and other influencers in the health and wellness space, just speaking about like better for you food and beverage. So I'd say TikTok is kind of like a newfound search tool in and of itself to find those influencers.
Yeah, and just someone asked about pricing and contracts. So first is, if you ask around, you can find some gifted influencers that are free. And so there's no contract because you can't really ask them to do anything. But if you think your product's good and you can send out product easily, I like the idea of gifting. And so you could just ask around, who have you gifted to that posted and it was great? And you could probably get some names. Once you go into the paid realm and there is a relationship, I do like the idea of a contract. Like if I'm hiring Sarah to post about my vegan whatever, and I want her to talk about flavor or ingredients, like I want to make sure she sticks the landing. So it could be straightforward. There's contracts you can actually find online. We use contracts on behalf of all of our clients because it's a relationship. I'm paying you for something. I want to make sure I get that something and I want to know what our terms are. So I think that's a really good idea. Otherwise, you might get an influencer who's like, look, you paid me $200. I gave you my honest opinion. I don't like the flavor. And then you're screwed because you're like, well, I can't post that. And so, you know, you can get into like a weird relationship sometimes if you don't get buttoned up front. You're going to say something, Sarah?
I was just going to say, you also want to make sure there's a contract in there to just like for legal purposes, if you're paying someone and ensuring you're like following FTC guidelines, they have ad in there somewhere or like hashtag whatever the brand's name partner is. So you also want to just cover the brand in terms of all things legality.
And again, actually, I just said one other thing. So we use Julius, which is a SaaS platform. We also have a Rolodex because we work in CPG a lot of just a lot of like friends of the firm that we usually get discounted prices on, or we usually, or when we gift. I've heard some like influencer agencies that we just onboarded a client and they're like, yeah, our old agency would say it's a crapshoot and we should expect 10%. So we send out to 100 people, 10. We've typically seen more like 50, 60%. Just because we bring them so many brands and we've been a little bit more thoughtful. So what I would say to you, if you're going to do it alone, just ask, again, other CPG founders or marketers so that if it's like, yeah, we sent gift to Sarah and Sarah posted, you at least know that Sarah is inclined sometimes to get product and post. You could just make it, instead of a totally cold lead, a little bit warmer. So I always like the idea, take cold to warm, warm to hot. You increase your chances of value exchange. What types of content work best on platforms like Insta and TikTok? Very curated content, more natural, scrappy videos. Can you share ideas?
Yeah, I would say for Instagram, you can be a little bit more curated still. And TikTok, we like more authentic content, but a lot of that overlaps now. So at our agency, we create a lot of UGC, so user-generated content that's a little bit more scrappy, natural. That would work across both platforms. And then we have like more elevated PGC. So looks like it was paid. It's a little bit more elevated. So that also works across both. I would say when you have branded, beautiful, stylized content, we like to have that strictly live on Instagram, unless it's going to be like a dark ad running behind the scenes on TikTok. But definitely like a mix of UGC, PGC, a little bit more elevated, and then a mix of trends on TikTok, just because that's where all the trends live these days, is on that platform. So it's a lot of overlap, but I also think there's uniqueness still to both platforms.
Yeah, and just to riff on that, and I'll answer PGC actually in a second, but just to riff on that, like there are social media gurus that will tell you you have to create unique content for every platform, and I actually don't buy it. There's maybe times where it was a little bit more like that, and maybe a couple years ago with TikTok, like you had to do like 7-day facing camera episodic content and trends live there. But nowadays, with TikTokification, people are looking for humor, utility, quality, use case. So you can create vertical video, and that can definitely have a place that you make on your phone, really with Reels, with TikTok, and even YouTube Shorts. So don't overthink it, especially if you're really early stage and can't afford to overthink it. Those play. Stylized content did not play on TikTok back then. It very much does now in ads. And you should be thinking ads if you're using TikTok. And just going to PGC, there's 3 levels. There's UGC, that is user-generated content. That is Rick in Nebraska using your product. The good news is it's authentic. The downside is it almost always misses on quality and message. So it just looks terrible, or it never showed your logo instead of showing your logo, or you're like, that would have been great if he just said this. So PGC is where you're scripting it a little bit. You're like, okay, Adam, I want you to make sure you have the logo, and you taste it and you're like, this is the best thing I ever had, or I love that the macros, or I love that there's no sugar, whatever it is, where you're scripting it, but it still looks really pure, like it's UGC. And the third category is what we call studio PGC. So that we do that at Sircle a lot with our creators. So not laymen, like we have laymen at Sircle, social media managers that make PGC. Most people, as long as they're crafty with a phone, can. But studio PGC is you're thinking about shadows, lighting, post-production, audio, ASMR, like you're able to be a little bit more creative and crafty. And I think those go a long way. If you look at a lot of the big brands right now, like the darling brands that everyone looks like, Poppy's always on the top of the list. If you look at their Instagram, you'll see a lot of like really beautiful assets that are like color pop. If you click on almost any of them, it actually takes you to a PGC video. So they're leveraging PGC, even though the thumbnail that you're seeing in the feed is a stylized asset. So it's a good way to like see what I'm talking about when you see a lot of that PGC. Do brands really need to post every day? Absolutely not. It is not a quantity play. It's a quality play. We typically post 4 times a week on Instagram and Facebook. Sometimes you're going to make an argument for 3. It is not a quantity play at all. And I would say somebody asked here about buying followers. 1000% no. 0 value. Like even if it's $1, save the dollar and use that elsewhere. Has never had value in my opinion. But today, given what we talked about today, like literal 0 value, do not buy followers. Produced generated content. I think that was somebody trying to answer PGC. It's basically like paid, I guess it could be produced generated content, but we call it like paid generated content. So it's like you paid Sircle or a creator or somebody to do it. And since you're paying them, you can script what they say. That's really what PGC is. Or professionally generated content. I guess that could be too. I like the please on the P. That works. What platform do you recommend for email?
I would say most of our clients are really happy with Klaviyo.
Yeah,
I mean,
some are on MailChimp or like Campaign Monitor, but like we move everyone over. It's easy to use, it's easy to plug into. If you need to hire like a designer, they're usually versed in creating assets for that platform. So that's what we'd recommend. I like that we got this second run of questions. I feel like we answered all of them. Adrian?
Yep, you are completely up to date. The next question that I have for you is, if you're an early stage brand, when is the right time a brand should engage an agency?
That's a good one. So I actually spoke to somebody the other day from Naturally. She's actually based in Boulder. I don't think she's on this call, but she heard about this session. She got on my calendar. We did a 30-minute call and I just gave her advice. And she's telling me all about her business, and she uses this agency in California and she's not happy. They don't post, they don't do all these things. And I think she was like paying them like $500 a month. So I was like, just think about it logically. If you're paying an agency who has a business, $125 a week, $500 a month, like how much could they possibly do for you? So like logically, just save that. I'd rather you put that $500 towards a video creator in Iowa that can make you like that video and some cut downs that you can use. I think if it's that low, you better off not paying 500,000, 2,000 to an agency that sounds good because you can afford it. That's usually not going to give you value, and you can use that money elsewhere. So we typically say at Sircle, you need to be at like 3 or 4 million run rate revenue to hire an agency like us. That doesn't mean there's not agencies that are a little bit smaller, that might be in like the 1 to 2 million, but run rate. But if you're in that rate, or if you're earlier than that, I wouldn't hire an agency. Like I would either do it myself and get over the hump of like, I am so busy, I don't have time. Like you just took this. You can reach out to me. I'm happy to give you tips. There's a lot of like free advice out there. You can ask other brands. You don't need quantity, so you can post a couple times a week. You should just have it on your phone. So whenever you're like sitting around, just look and make sure anyone that reaches out, you respond to. And you should be doing some paid social. And you could either go on Upwork or Fiverr and find somebody with Meta and TikTok ads experience who is not $10 an hour, because that's too cheap, and not $100 an hour, maybe somewhere between $30 and $60 an hour, who has done CPG or beverage like in your category and that has a lot of reviews that are positive. Find that person and have them run some ads for you, because it's really about getting a good piece of content and then putting it in front of like zip code based shoppers who live near Whole Foods Northeast, because that's where you're sold. And you just want to get that content of like who you are, why it matters, where to buy it. And that's a good enough social ecosystem plan right now that you can do on your own and save the money. if you're like, I hear you, Adam, but I'm telling you, A, I'm not doing it, or B, I just, you know, I just can't. I don't have the time. I would go to a local university. Any state university typically allows you to give credit for interns. And I would have them come on and let them be part of your CPG founder journey, which is an amazing experience. Let them create real content so they can build out their UGC portfolio, so they're getting a real value exchange. And then you're getting a young digital native in Boulder, Austin, New York, wherever you're based, that is able to maybe like pop into a local store and take a photo of your product, create an asset for you. And yes, some of these kids are flaky. So what I would try to do maybe is a little bit of a test before they submit, to grab anything from your fridge or your pantry, send it to me in a TikTok video. I want to see if you actually know what you're doing. Or use your sphere of influence. Friends, daughters of nieces, cousins, neighbors, like at least if you have a little bit of leverage, like you know somebody who knows them, it's less likely they're just gonna flake out and disappear. And so then you have a little bit of leverage. There's a lot of digital natives. It's a real buyer market out there right now. There's a lot of people looking for jobs. We just put a job listing up for a social media manager. We got 780 applicants in 38 hours. There are people out there that even if you wanted to go a little paid, you could find somebody before they get a job who might be willing to work for you on an hourly rate, and might be excellent, just doesn't have a job yet. So I think that's a really good idea before I would be just like hiring an agency, so that I feel like I have an agency who is checking the box when they're probably not doing much.
Thank you. Holiday, I feel like it's top of mind for all the brands these days. Any cool campaigns you've seen launched recently, or some trends that you think people should be aware of? I know you talked a little bit about holiday recipes and whatnot, but what else, do you think could help maybe stand out from the clutter?
I think we see a lot of success which I do like a strategy weekly write up each week, and send it to the company. But I've seen a lot of great like higher incentive sweepstakes. So it obviously like a bigger, like let's say a Yeti mug for the holidays, like all these items that you want to win or want to have around the holidays. But obviously Yeti will not team up with a smaller brand, even none of our brands here either. But you as a brand could purchase that and create kind of like a self-run giveaway with a higher incentive, and have the cost of entry being click the link in our bio, add your first name, last name, email. So you're growing your email list and just generating a lot of buzz and awareness around this like higher incentive prize. And I just actually finished my Q3 reporting and did a look back and saw that any giveaway where we had like a higher incentive, whether it was like no wallet, water bottle, a whole, like even a gift card to a retailer, that really brought a lot of engagement, followers, and interest. So I think heading into the holiday season is a really good time to think about like what's a high incentive, big ticket item that people really want. I just saw one of our clients did, it was like 2 brands, and then they included an Aura ring, which I know a lot of people want right now, especially heading into this, like we're almost in the new year, new you phase. So I think people are just interested in learning more about their bodies and what's going on there. The anthropology glasses are really big right now. So that's a low cost item, but like those really go crazy and sell out really quickly. So that could be another thing that you include, and it's seasonal. So I think that's another like strategic thing to think about for the end of the quarter, and a way to kind of top off your email subscriber list.
I also just think I like a little bit of like a unconventional holiday. So rather than just like swimming in Hanukkah and Christmas, like if you live in New York, October is Yankee baseball season. Yankees are #1 seed. It's playoff time. Like if you can get 1 ticket or 2 tickets in the worst seat in Yankee Stadium, that could be an interesting collaboration giveaway for local fans that they would actually care about because they live in New York. Like that could be something interesting of value. Or just other brands, like other New York based brands, or $100 gift certificate to Stu Leonard's. If Stu Leonard's is somewhere where you sell, and you just buy and underwrite $100 card that you could leverage around maybe Halloween. Because I would bet if you go to a Stu Leonard's right now, they probably have an insane Halloween pumpkin. They probably have a hayride. Like just be a little bit more strategic. And I think like don't chase as much between Thanksgiving and Christmas because everyone's there. Sometimes you can do some things like around it. I think you saw actually a lot of pumpkin spice stuff happening in like July and August. people are getting earlier and earlier on it. So like you start to think about that, especially like around Labor Day. So I think if you can get in early, you can like just get a little bit more value instead of waiting too long. And just driving D2C versus retail stores. So yeah, I mean, that's brand specific. You have to think about, actually, I should probably read the question. How would you go about that? What channels would you focus or invest in? Would you still find a paid marketer for Fiverr or Upwork? So, you know, what is your channel mix? What is your main focus? If you only had one ask, would it be go to my website and buy, go to Amazon and buy, or go to a store? So you have to figure that out. If it's D2C, then you should focus on D2C, and that's a different type of digital marketing. Even when you set up a meta ad, like you have to tell it it's behavior based. So you want to drive traffic that's going to be different than awareness. It's going to cost different. It's going to look different. It's going to act different. It's going to target different, because some people don't ever click on meta ads, but they consume, like me. But some people click on meta ads all the time and buy stuff, and that's somebody else. It could even be my wife, and we live in the same house. So you have to figure out, what do you want to ask for? And then if the ask is D2C, then I think it's ads, it's traffic ads, it's using the Meta and TikTok ads platform where you're trying to drive it. I would probably choose Meta over TikTok, less friction in that instance. And yeah, there's tons of Fiverr. I like Upwork more than tons of like ninjas out there that are good. There's also like, just again, asking other CPG founders, like, does anyone have like a great, just like growth marketer, D2C freelancer? And I feel like you'll find somebody that does, and they probably aren't, because given the economy, they're maybe not giving them as much business as they used to. So once again, I think people would love to not only help out another CPG brand, but also maybe help out that partner that they want to keep in their ecosystem, but they're not able to fund as much anymore. So I would also ask around for somebody that is really good at that. Bless you, Sarah, that you could be leveraging. All right, Adrian, I think we're wrapping up. That was like the ammonia spray on the table. We need to get out of here. I think
no. You still have till 12. I just wanted to see that in, you know.
No, we got all the questions in, so you can go through those in the wrap up.
Oh, I appreciate that. Okay, well, I just wanted to quickly share a little sneak peek of what's coming up next at Naturally New York. All of these events are free for members, so we do hope to see you very, very soon. We also have some partners that really specialize in fractional marketing services, or even growing your brand on Amazon. So I'm actually gonna, shameless plug here, but if you are looking for additional support on Amazon, I'm happy to connect everybody with the Broadleaf Digital team. That's what they specialize in. So if you need any support there, by all means, reach out. And on our company directory, we also have just a ton of different partners that kind of specialize in different areas. But of course, for all your social media organic needs, I recommend Sircle Media, as they really are quite the leader in the space. Adam, you're so much of an industry influencer as well. So really appreciate you. No, you are. You're kind of you're the guy. So again, thank you both for all these insights and sharing this presentation today. We are going to route this following the call. Please fill out the brand survey if you can. It just helps us really, plan better in the future and address the questions and things that you're looking for us to cover in these sessions. But again, I think we're very excited for Q4. We have some big announcements coming up. We will be hosting a Friendsgiving in November. We have a really big holiday initiative coming your way. We are building what I'm calling the Holiday Bazaar. It's going to feature a marketplace of natural brands, an exhibitor hall, and a huge networking event at the end of the night. So stay tuned for more details on those two huge events coming your way. But of course, for anything that's been finalized, you can always reference the events tab of our website for more information.